Hey, you mentioned we're talking Roma Dunze here. Your next pick is actually his quarterback. Which team are we sending Michael Penix to that you really loved in your most recent mock draft?
Yeah, I've been saying this one for a while. I think there's a lot of folks throwing it out there now, but to me, the Raiders it felt like that to me. I think of him the Raiders and their DNA, and obviously there's been different coaches and general managers over the years, but and even a new owner. But it's at its core, the Raiders are they're a physical team, and they're an explosive passing game, and they're pushing the ball vertically down the field. I don't know. I mean, you having charted it, I know you saw it, but how many times last year to see Devontae Adams stutter goes or sluggo is just freaking wide open and the ball can't find him,
More than I'd like.
Yes. So to me, like he can capitalize on that. So I just thought it fit there. I also like the fact of him, playing indoors and playing in good weather, where him and his meat hook hands and that, in freaking ridiculous arm that he has, like there's no blade of grass or turf, I should say, that's safe inside Alliance Stadium if he's in that offense.
Meat hook hands definitely in the top 5 of like weird draft terms that probably get thrown around, dude, in the building.
Like, I can't stop looking at it. Like it like to me, it would be like this is the chapstick is the football, and it's like you watch him. It's just like he swallows the whole ball with his hands. They're enormous.
Yeah. You were, to your credit, DJ, a lot of people have started to come around on this like Michael Penix Raiders connection. Probably so many now that it's just not going to happen because that's, of course, that is how the draft works. But to your credit, I remember one of your early mock drafts that you had this, and I remember your blurb on it. I think I've brought it up on the show of like Michael Penix fits the Raiders style of football, and that challenged me to think about, because I'm a little like back and forth on Penix. I'm curious what your just opinion is on the player, but I'm a little like back and forth on Penix. My overall thought has been, hey, if this was 1995, I think he'd be a top 10 quarterback, because I think you sit him back in a clean pocket and you just ask him to launch it all over the field. But then I think about the Raiders. I'm like, you know what? I think they kind of need somebody to just drop back and not be, no disrespect, but not be Gardner Minshew and kind of take the little lollipop passes and threaten every blade of grass like that. So, you have Devontae Adams. You want to maximize Devontae Adams right now. Yeah, I love Jacoby Myers. I think he's so underrated as a receiver. So you have a guy just, dropping bombs to those two players. I can see the vision on that, which, like I said, everybody's sort of come around to, but you were kind of the first one I saw put this out there.
Yeah, and look, I'm curious to see what, you get a new coordinator coming in, so there's going to be some changes there. But and obviously the Josh Jacobs not being there is a big part of it. But I still think that's how their offensive line is built more to run the ball at this point in time than they are as a pass protecting offensive line. So then you say, well, gosh, that doesn't work. You got a mobile quarterback and you've got a run blocking offensive line. But I think if they put themselves in favorable situations, and it's going to be it should be a play action heavy offense where they're trying to live over the top of the defense. And the other thing with that is he's my 6th quarterback to answer that question. So I think he's my 34th overall player, my 6th quarterback. So 13, that coffee's a little rich there for me personally. But I always just go back to like the first minicamp test. And I'm like, if you go out there for the first minicamp and you just arrived from another planet and you're going to watch Gardner Minshew throw next to Aiden O'Connell, next to Michael Penix, you're going to go, well, he's the best one. Like he throws it much better than those guys do. So I just think it's an opportunity to upgrade the position.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense with just regardless. Regardless of my kind of hesitations of him as a player, I do understand. Like 13 is definitely rich for sure. I would be curious to.
It's a get out. Yeah.
I'll be dialed in. I know the nation will be dialed in on what's Daniel Jeremiah's reaction, when Penix goes off the board 13th overall. But shoot, I mean, even if they
hold up. Let me ask you this, because I talked to a team about. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but if you're his former offensive coordinator in Grub, and you're sitting there in Seattle, Gino's 33 years old. I don't think Sam Howell's presence is going to keep you from taking anybody. But like because I was talking to a team about this, and I said, well, if the Raiders like Penix, just slide back. And they're like, I wouldn't slide if they like Penix, I wouldn't slide back past Seattle. And I'm like, huh. So, and then I was like, obviously, it's his coach. It's his coach. He walks in, he knows the system. You think about their presence to get vertically down the field with their assortment of weapons. Like, I mean, that's an interesting fit there too.
I think that my number one prediction for the 2024 NFL season is that the Seattle Seahawks is going to become like the football hipster tape grinder favorite team, but just because this offense, like whether it is successful or not in the NFL, I mean, it's not going to be the same. Like Ryan Grubb's not going to do the exact same thing that he did in Washington, but I think a lot of the concepts will be the same. I think a lot of the ways they attack teams will be the same. And like, that is going to be fun to watch. And yeah, I could see if you're Ryan Grubb just going to John Schneider and be like, hey, look, the Geno thing is great for right now, but Penix can be a guy that can do this for us for the next 3-4 years. Like once we get past the Geno era. So I can see that. And the fact that they're picking 16, I guess it's sort of similar, DJ, right? Where people say, hey, if you like the quarterback at 10, you should just take him at 1, or you take him at 2, or take him at 3, or take him at 4, whatever. I guess if you like the quarterback at your second round pick, you take him at 13. It's still rich, but hey, I don't think you can straight face walk into training camp and say, we are having a competition between Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, and give me your money for season tickets. That I don't think that puts butts in the seats.
Yeah, no, that's why I kicked around the idea the other day we were talking on the podcast, which was, hey, if Drake May goes to Washington and say they end up taking him over Jaden Daniels and Jaden Daniels gets to 3, I could see the Raiders at least giving the swinging the bat as hard as they can to try and get up to get Jaden Daniels at 3, just because they become an infinitely watchable product if that were to take place. Obviously, reunite him with his guy who recruited him to Arizona State, Antonio Pierce. So there's a lot of connections there that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I will be definitely putting in the research on Devontae Adams' success rate on slot fade routes if that is the case. But all right,